Hello friend, good morning to all of you. I am TC Boyer, Assistant Professor and Head, Department of English, late Pushpadevi Patil Arts and Science College, Risod, Dist Wasim, that is affiliated to Sant Garge Baba Amravati University, Amravati in Maharashtra. Friends, today we are going to learn about William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare, the most famous and influential author in English literature. He was only active as a writer for a quarter century. He wrote 38 plays, 154 sonnets, and two epic poems. That shows the use of English language in such a way that his work is studied all over the world. Very little is known about his early life. He was born around 1564 in Stratford upon Avon to a middle class merchant family. He married with a child on the way at the age of 18 and became the father of two children. By 1592, he had become a successful actor and playwright in London and was famous among Londoners for the popularity of his plays. An astute businessman as well as an artist, he broadened his audience by using characters and language from both the noble and the lower classes. He mixed both body and sophisticated humor to appeal to his larger audience. He also wrote about the human experience with universal themes of love, ambition, and envy that are still felt and loved by modern audiences. His plays, often categorized as tragedies, comedies, and histories. His tragedies featured sympathetic protagonists who were doomed by their flaws. For example, Macbeth, the title hero of the play, is doomed because of his over ambitious nature. Othello is also a title hero. He doomed because of his indecisive nature. King Lear because of his overconfidence, and Othello because of his jealousy. So these are the his great protagonist, a sympathetic figure. A tragedies featured sympathetic protagonists who were doomed by their flaws. Comedies tended to be more upbeat, with happy endings that often led to a marriage. In his comedies, we can see there are at the very beginning or in the middle, there are so many complications. But at the end, all complications are resolved and there are marriages so that it has an happy ending. So comedies always end with happiness. The historical plays were frequently politically motivated to appeal to the Elizabethan court and featured British and Scottish kings. As an actor, he was present during the production of his plays and therefore wrote them with very little stage direction. His dialogues was written in blank verse and iambic pentameter. His early works lines were often in his early works lines were often stressed at the end. As his writing developed, Shakespeare again and Shakespeare gained an understanding that a more lyrical style of writing would hold the audience's interest and be more pleasing to the ear. He developed a characteristic cadence to his dialogue, stressing his lines in the second syllable to provide a rhythmic pattern to his speeches. His writing is developed and evolved throughout his career. Scholars divided his work into periods based on different aspects of his writing style, and these periods divided by scholars we are going to study in the next slide. The first period of his writing is known as early period. It started in 1594. The plays of this period tend to be less sophisticated than his later works. The plays of this period are typically set in Roman and medieval times. The second period of comedy. It started from 1594 and ended in 1600. In this period, he developed his writing further, with scenes flowing more naturally. His comedy became more sophisticated and he set himself apart from other playwrights by the use of comic relief and mild humor in his tragedies. His most famous work of this period, the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, is a fine example of using the servant class, especially Juliet's nurse, to break tension with comic relief. Period of tragedy is the next period of his writing. It started from 1600 and ended in 1608. It was during this period that he wrote his best historical dramas and relied on royal and powerful characters to demonstrate human weaknesses that were relatable to all classes of audience. This was the time in which Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, Macbeth, King Lear, Othello, and Julius Caesar, his greatest tragedies and most celebrated works. His writing took a dark turn and explored his characters' inner conflicts, guilt, and remorse. Last period of his life, of his writing, period of romance and tragic comedy that started from 1608 and ended in 1630. By this period, his writing was fully developed into the sharp, fast-paced and lyrical style of dialogue that became his trademark. His use of symbolism and social commentary became more pronounced in plays of this period, as is illustrated in The Tempest. Sonnets. He is a poet as well as a playwright. As a poet, he has written so many sonnets, and that we have to study here. In 1609, he published his collection of 154 sonnets. Like his plays, the sonnets encompass many aspects of the human experience. Mortality is a strong theme, explored from the perspective of youth being encouraged to procreate to extend their lives to a future generation. Mortality is also examined as he writes about the lives of lovers growing old, death, and about the brief nature of existence. The sonnets are constructed of 14 lines divided into three groups of 4 lines called quatrains and a final group of 2 lines called a couplet. Usually, the mood of the sonnet changes in the third quatrain as the writer expresses a realization or a sudden insight. All of the sonnets are written in iambic pentameter, and the final word in each line follows an ABAB, CD, EF, and GG rhyming scheme. To this day, any poem written in this pattern is known as Shakespearean sonnet. He retired from writing in 1613 and died 3 years later at the age of 52. Most of his works were published posthumously in 1629. So this is the short introduction of Shakespeare we have seen here. What kind of writing he has? He has written poems. He has written short, what we can say, sonnet as well as two long poems. He also has written 37 plays. It is said that